Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of Lack of Focus, Episode 7, The App Awakens. I am your host, Ed Horne, and literally right beside me in studio, my partner in crime in gaming, one Mr. Chad Brown. Chad, how's it going, man?
Hey, everybody.
Joining us to his long return, one Mr. Sean Dorcy. Sean, so good to have you back.
Hey, guys, how's it going?
And our producer extraordinaire, the guy that only actually does any real work on this show at all, one Mr. Kris Sheriff. Kris, how's it going?
Good, thanks, Ed.
No, honestly, really, he does. He does all the work. We're just happy, shiny faces. He does.
Is he the one employee? Is that what we call him?
He is, and he works really hard. He's
the producer, the director, the behind the scenes tech guy. He's everything.
Yeah, he's like a Tommy Wiseau movie. Like he's written, directed, produced. It's a Kris Sheriff production.
Pretty much, yeah.
Anyway, so in episode 7, obviously we are on the eve, the cusp, the very dawn of 2nd edition. The day that we're recording this right now, the official release date is Saturday. Of course, people already have stuff on their hands right now. So we're going to be talking an awful lot about 2nd edition. Some of the app stuff, the app dropped today, which has been kind of interesting. We do have a sponsor we do want to mention before we move too much further. Galaxy Gaming Gear will be once again sponsoring this episode, so I want to thank those guys. Of course, they have the acrylic templates, tokens, and all your fun stuff, so check those guys out. So we've got some app stuff, and then in the main topic tonight, we've had a couple of questions that were dropped into our Facebook page, and this one kind of spun off into a main topic, which is really going to kind of lead us into the beginnings of 2nd edition and teaching some new guys how to play, and it's the pillars of X-Wing. The first pillar tonight we're going to be covering, of course, is going to be Jousting. Really exciting stuff. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to have my 2nd edition stuff in my hand, but we'll get to that later. All of that and a lot more coming up right after this.
I am recording.
I'm recording as well. All right, we're back, and in the flight deck, we're going to cover over the stuff we've been doing. I think there's only one person here who has an awful lot of major stuff to talk about what we're doing, so we're going to save him for the end. He'll be the crown jewel. Sean, I actually have no idea what you've been up to. Why don't we leave it to you, my friend? What have you been up to lately?
Mostly working, but my flight deck is really simple. I'll just do this.
Where you have a game store in your back pocket right there.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where I'm committed now, so we just move on and start playing again. So next Tuesday will be my first introduction back into X-Wing. After about a year and a half, I think we're looking at about a year and a half that I've been away from the game. A year from TOing, but actual playing has been a year and a half. So.
And when you say away from the game, like you legitimately haven't picked up a ship, haven't picked up a dial. It's been completely flushed from your mind. So you're going to be, I'm kind of in the same boat, so I know how you feel.
Yeah, and I think that'll actually be good. This will be therapeutic, getting back into it with a fresh start at a level or at a point where the game will be interesting again. It's not going to be rock, paper, scissors in the way the game was at the end of 1.0's era. It's going to be rock, paper, scissors now with the view of going back to relearning jousting. A lot of people haven't jousted in a long time. Relearning how to play against swarms because those are going to be out there.
I can't wait.
And that's the excitement of the game for me right now. Is it's kind of like going back to 2012 again when 1.0 released, and the difference is, of course, we have all the ships available to us with the extended play portion. But if you look at it,
we're going to get into that with the app when we get into the news. I thought that was kind of interesting, but we'll just leave that hang for a second.
Yeah, exactly. But the key piece here is that it is like starting over. You're going to have to buy some ships if you want all the pilots. You're going to have to buy some stuff if you want this or that, but this is the cheapest way to get into a game. I mean, I bought 3 things today. It was less than $130, and I have my entire collection valid again.
Yep.
And that's the key piece. The having what I've already purchased valid, you can't beat that as far as getting into a game.
Yeah, no, for me, I know I had meant to do some swap and trades and try to get stuff in. I think I'm going to wait till second edition kind of gets rolling for that, because to be honest with you, I didn't let go of anything. It's all still sitting back there in the display case. I didn't let go of anything. It's all kind of sitting here. I don't know if I can wrap that up to procrastination and laziness, or the fact that they're my toys. I don't want anyone else to have them.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing is, I had basically gotten rid of all of my high value items. I still have a lot of promos and stuff from 1.0, but I've actually given away some ships. I sent some to Ira Mayer who needed certain ships, and just because when you have, I think it was like 10 B wings or 12 B wings and 6 shuttles and all this stuff, it's just like, yeah, I could sell it, but I'd rather help a friend out. Make sure that he's got what he needs. And
that's a good policy.
More on the Sean Dorcy approach to buying ships coming later.
Yeah, exactly. and the approach, Sean Dorcy approach of pawning off ships too. So it's I'll probably give away more as time goes on if people need. I think I have 22 X-wings. I don't think I'll. Yeah, when you go and you look, I just got another X-wing, 2 more TIE fighters, and I think it was like 18 TIE fighters, something like that.
Yeah, you're right up there with me.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I have 6 Millennia or 6 YT-1300s.
Jeez.
Yeah, so, but the reason why, and we'll talk about why later, but when you're building a community, you have to have a tendency of doing that. And I'm not building a community nor maintaining one, so I'm looking forward to just being that average Joe in there playing.
Yeah, with not 1,000 ships and can field 14 different lists all from the same box. Yeah, I remember that.
Exactly.
Feeling. All right, Kris, we'll move on to you. What have you been up to lately, my friend?
Well, I've been packing up and dividing up the conversion kits and the core set to do the X-Wing draft I'm going to be running tomorrow night. So it went from an 8-player cap to a 16-player cap, which means I had to do double the amount of work. So I had to make 2 pods worth of conversion kit stuff. So like I said on the last show, I think I used a lot of what Chris Allen had done on the Create podcast for the base of it, and I've rejigged it all. So depending on how it goes on Friday, I will tweak it again from there after I've seen the spread of the upgrades. So the pilots I'm pretty happy about. The upgrades I'm not too sure I've got the right mix yet. After I've seen it go through 2 pods, I'll upload it to our Facebook page and the people can steal it as they like. But to run a pod, you require a core set, 1 of each conversion kit, and 7 first edition TIE Fighter dials.
The same dial. I think we covered over this in the last episode. Check that one out if you want to get some of the details on how that was done. It sounds like a really cool format. It sounds super exciting. Really different kind of way of playing X-Wing.
Yeah, well, I will be able to talk about it more on the next show, or we can do an in-focus episode on how it went or something. But
I think that sounds like a great idea. For me, this is going to surprise no one. I did nothing. Nothing X-Wing related. I think I kind of just reserved the fact that second edition was coming, and first edition just really didn't interest me. Second edition really interests me. Can't wait to get to the game store on Tuesday and start flying some TIE fighters. Cannot wait. This is a complete aside, and of course we wouldn't be 10 minutes into a lack of focus episode if we didn't lose focus for a moment. Kris has been helping me out with my son and I decided we got into the MTG Magic the Gathering Arena closed beta a while ago, and we built a brand new gaming computer, which we're recording, well, our side of it anyway, on. And of course, as soon as we got the camera, we've got the new computer, we've got a super awesome setup. Why don't we do some YouTube videos and start streaming stuff? So this sounded like a really good idea. So Kris has kind of helped me walk me through the process of the stuff I need, the software I need, and toying around with that. The YouTube channel isn't going to open until October. There's a big reset coming whenever a new set comes out in Magic. So we're going to actually start the YouTube channel and kind of kick it off in October after the reset. But we've been playing around with it. So I've been spending an awful lot of time toying with visuals, toying with how OBS is set up and that kind of stuff for streaming. But if you're interested in that, I mean, we do kind of cross-pollinate in some geeky cultures. It's going to be try that again, Old Guy Gaming. We've got a Twitch channel set up. It's going to be the YouTube channel as well, and there's going to be a Patreon if you're interested. I really don't care. If you do, thank you. If not, it doesn't matter. It's mostly just going to be for fun and hobby. But we're really hoping to do about 2 to 3 videos a week, like 2 videos recorded and then 1 draft. I don't know what the editing process is going to be like, so I don't know if I can commit to that yet. I just want to kind of get it out and try it out and see what it is. But I think a lot of that's going to take some backseat here, at least in the next couple of weeks when 2nd edition comes out. So we'll see how that goes. That's all I've really been doing game-wise. Work's been crazy. I've got a business trip coming up here in October. I'm getting prepared for. It's going to be nuts. So that's what I've been doing. Now to the man of honor. You went to a big tournament this past week.
I did, but did you notice you didn't play any games?
I did not. I've been waiting for it. We have discussed this. I said if I didn't play, he had to punch me on camera. It's out of the way. I've been holding on to it. The anxiety's done now. You're right.
And I was waiting. I'm like, I'm not going to let him know when it's coming. I'm not going to let him know.
And of course, I wasn't even looking at your peripheral, so you got me on a good one.
Anyway, I was like, look right there. Look, boom.
Anyway, you went to the Nova Open. You went to Nationals. The last functional tournament of 1.0, the last gasp.
Big premier event.
Big premier event. Did they still get passes into the Coruscant event for that?
I think there was something going on. I didn't quite get that high up, so.
Oh no, I understand. I'm pretty sure that they still get passes into Coruscant for getting as far as they did. But anyway, so you had a really big event, one of the coolest ones around, which is the Nova Open. I assume you hung out with Mike Brandt.
Yes, I did hang out with Mike Brandt. I actually appeared on their Nova Open
saw that
video channel.
I saw that.
Because the only time I had to work in an interview with him was when he was sitting down to do one of those interviews. He's like, do you mind doing a dual interview? And I was like, no, sure, why not? You know, if it's the only way I can get in. So I actually had Linda took her phone, and we're in the process of trying to get those videos to Kris at the moment. I might have to go and figure this out tomorrow, so they might be in next episode, or if we do in focus episode, we'll be able to put them up. Too. But no, she did her video, and then the other woman who was doing the interview also, she had her own video. So I was up on their feed.
So technically, you could see the video already if you go to her feed, but we don't want you to do that.
Right. Well, our feed's going to have all my interviews, especially with the winner and some of the other guys I got to play. I unfortunately went 2-4 that day.
Ooh.
Ooh. Apparently, I was unaware that I was doing what the majority of people were doing and flying a Reaper. So a lot of Reapers at the event.
Really? Oh,
yes.
Good.
So I was like, everybody was coming with Reapers in mind. So I was at a slight disadvantage. There were a couple games I got in that I did win. A lot of games I got in where at the beginning of the game, my opponent was like, oh, crap, but then ended up pulling it out in the end. I ended up playing 2 guys from our local game store back-to-back. Round 5, 6 rounds, round 5 and 6. I played 2 guys.
Beach driving to DC to play guys you could play at Latrobe.
Yeah. I played one of the guys. He hasn't really been playing a lot recently, and
Jason, I assume?
No, Aaron. Jason was playing 40K.
Oh, okay.
Or no, he was playing Age of Sigmar, maybe. One of the two. He was playing Warhammer.
Yeah, one of those games.
No, Aaron went to play X-Wing.
Oh,
he flew Rack Vader, and he decided that he was thinking about doing a barrel roll, and then he was like, no, I don't think you have it. We got the laser out, and turned out, yeah, I did have it, and I melted Vader away.
Yay!
And when Vader melts away in that list, Rack's kind of like sitting there being like, all right, I'm a sponge. Give me all the damage. I'll soak it all up.
Give me all the crits. I want all the crits.
Yeah, so he did. I 100-0 to him. And then the very next round, I had to play Evan, which my dice always go cold when I play Evan. And that just didn't. I have that
same problem.
I lost that game. I did get in a couple other games. One of them, I actually did an interview with this guy. His name's Cooper. He's from out Philly area. He was playing a bandit. He had, which A-Wing did he have? Was it Tycho, I think?
Did it have a little red wagon full of stress tokens behind it?
I think that was the one he was playing. Yeah, it was Tycho.
That would be Tycho.
Sabine, and he had Fen in the Sheathipede.
Oh, nice.
And we go up, and the first round that we jousted at each other, I mean, Tycho, of course, went out in the round.
Yeah.
But the Z, Ben, and Sabine all came jousting at my list, and I was running the Defender, the Reaper, and the Striker list I have. And that first round of shooting, Fenn just completely melted away. And he looked at it and went, oh, crap.
Yep.
And then I took Sabine out of the picture. And he's like, oh, crap.
Yep.
But he ended up winning that one because Tycho was just a little bit too slippery. And he was a higher pilot skill in that game. So
we'll get into that next episode, I believe, when we start discussing arc dodging.
Yeah. Well, for 1.0, I mean, arc dodging's,
kind of the same.
Some of the things, somewhat not a thing, but
it used to be a thing, and then these bombs that put automatic damage on ace pilots, and then all of a sudden, well, what do I fly?
Yeah, so like I said, I mean, there were a couple games where it was like the list I had was a great Alpha Strike list. It melted away somebody big and important right off the bat, and then my opponent's like, crap, now what do I do? And like I said, with the majority of the people bringing Reapers, everyone's like, okay, so this is how you're going to fly against a Reaper. So like I said, I ended up going the 2 and 4 that day.
But you had fun, yes.
I had lots of fun. It's always fun down there.
Got to hang out at a really cool event.
Yep. Awesome event.
All right, he's been holding these.
I've been holding these off. I have not shown these to Ed.
He's not shown these to me. He got
one of our super fans, good old Gustavo,
Rockro,
sent some cards out. 2.0 cards, by the way.
Ooh.
So this is a Boba Fett card I got sent. So that's pretty cool. I'll show that to Ed there.
Ooh,
Boba Fett for 2.0, the Scum. Darth Vader for 2.0.
That is really sharp.
There's Darth Vader.
This is, all right, so this is the movie still.
Him and his TIE Advance.
Yeah, for those of them in the audio-only format, it's an audio still from A New Hope.
A New Hope.
And I
where
love,
he's going for the trench,
I love the landscape style on this. This is really sharp.
The Rebel Han for 2.0 there. Yep, there's a shot with his Boba. I've already been told that that's probably getting borrowed by Josh Aldous Han at McMillan.
Oh, look at that. You've got the same ones.
Yep.
These are sharp.
We got Thane Kyrell, which the evil genius, my son Logan, has already looked at it and said, wow, I really like that. I might have to steal that one for myself.
I love how these are all movie still. I understand why they had to go to alternate arts and drawings, and they started off with douche Rendar. I understand why they had to do it because they were running out of actual characters to do movie stills with. But those are my favorite parts about the old art cards for first edition, were the movie still ones. These are absolutely gorgeous.
So I believe this one's supposed to be Colonel Vessery, but it's they've got this nice little artwork here. It says the Jangster on it. But it's the target lock, and then you get the target lock. Or you get a target lock, somebody else's target lock. But yeah, I like
Very
that one.
nice.
It's the Defender. I got a crew card here for Darth Maul.
You missed the best part of this. The flavor text.
Yeah.
The mustache contemplative commander.
Exactly.
That is awesome.
But also got a Darth Maul crew card, as you can see there. It's looks like from a PC thing there.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
And then we also got here, I believe this is a Darth Vader for Legion. And it's a comic book art for this one. So I really liked it. It's got the all I am surrounded by is fear and dead men.
Best comic book Vader quote.
I got a set of these.
These are gorgeous.
Sean's got a set. Kris is you still waiting on a set?
Yeah.
And nobody knew this, but Gustavo asked me to give Ed a set, so there you go. Those are yours.
These are mine?
Those are yours. I brought yours tonight. And I was showing them off as they were mine. Mine are back home. Get out of here. You're going to get another punch.
Yeah, but you got Chad prints all over them now.
Yeah, I cursed them.
Yeah, these are awesome, dude. These are really cool.
That's your set, so tell Gustavo thank you.
Thank you. These are really...
Yes.
I will play with this Vader on Tuesday. This will be the first card that I play.
There was a note in the envelope with those. Please give that a set. And I'm sitting there after I saw them. I'm like, I don't wanna.
Oh, wow, they're so cool. No,
Yes.
I absolutely. That will be the first card that I play. That is so cool.
Thank you, Gustavo. That's too kind. Too kind.
Yes. Extremely awesome, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. And your lack of focus tokens are in the mail.
You're a Patreon.
Yes.
Anything else you want to cover from Nova? I know we're kind of short on time. I know Kris has got a hard stop for tonight. Is there anything?
Food trucks were great.
Of course.
All the games were great. I got to see Roy and Kris and briefly Ron from the old show, so that was kind of cool.
If they haven't heard, who won and would they fly?
It was a Ghost, Fen Sheathipede, and Ezra. I think it was Kane and Ghost.
People stopped caring once you said it was Ghost Fen.
As soon as you said Ghost Fen, I'm like, oh god, I can't wait until tomorrow when it's officially gone.
And then it was the Ezra attack shuttle.
Yep. I know we know the list well.
It was a really, really he's got some. I can't remember who he said did his ships up for him, but it's like if you're a 40K player or Age of Sigmar player, these ships look like they've been affected by Nurgle.
Oh, nice.
So they were really, really awesome looking. Had a real good time. Did some demos down there. It's always a great time. If you get a chance, go to the Nova Open next year. It's awesome. I recommend it. I'll be there. Come say hi.
It's
that
already
fun
over
stuff.
it's not the Labor Day weekend. That's the holiday we just got past, right?
Yeah.
So it's always over Labor Day weekend. You can always kind of plan for it every single year. You know when it's going to be. It's a 3-day weekend that you were probably going to have off anyway. There's no reason not to make it unless extenuating circumstances like 4 kids or a job that doesn't have vacation time.
But you've been there, though.
I have been there, and I will be back. I promise.
Keep an eye out. Registration, I think, opens up in February.
They always send out the emails in February. Sign up for the newsletter to be able to get on that one. All right, I think that's going to cover it for the flight deck. We're going to move on to the news right after this. All right, we're back, and in the news, we've got a lot to cover. Obviously, with the second edition on the dawn of coming out in just a few days, FFG has been bombarding us with some second edition how to play kind of articles, of course, announcing all the new ships. There's a couple of articles I would like to key mark, though. One of them, good friend of the show, one Mr. Doug Kinney, and if that name doesn't ring a bell, he is the 2012 X-Wing World Champion. He was the first. He was the first guy and the only one to get a little banner that used to hang in FFG Game Center before they decided to take the banners out. He is a man after my own heart. He won Worlds with a Vader mini swarm kind of list. Between him and Dallas Parker, those are the two guys I really associate most with TIE swarms and taking them to the highest level. Dallas, of course, came the next year in 2013 to square off against Paul Heaver and gave him a pretty good run for his money. So these two guys really know what they're talking about when it comes to flying in formation. So he has a fantastic article to kind of re-up you on how to fly in formation. Swarms are going to be a thing now, at least in the early days of second edition. And not everyone remembers because they're so used to these 2 and 3 ship builds that they've been flying for the last 2 years. Well, these guys have been flying in formation for a while. So I highly recommend checking that one out. There's this other article that came out that I thought was super interesting. Who's the author?
You did?
I did. I actually read it and everything. They had pretty pictures, and it was by this guy, Kris Sheriff. Kris, congratulations. Second article you've had published for FFG on their site?
Yeah, I did my $101 squad article, and then I got to do Rule of 11 and like flanking and stuff like that was what they wanted an article on. So it was an interesting process to try and figure out how to do it because I didn't get to see any of the imagery when I wrote it.
So I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, so I had to write it to be as descriptive as possible, and then they made images from my words.
Gotcha.
So
I'd love to know what they use. They're probably just doing that in Photoshop, but like part of me thinks that there's an internal application that they use to play games on a computer. But in any case, so Rule of 11 for real brief. Obviously, I want them to go to your article and read the article, but just real quick, just kind of give an idea of what that 11 means because not everyone gets that.
So it is. I don't think of a Rule of 11 as a actual hard and fast rule to how to joust. It's just a truism. I think that like Pythagoras and things that are true within the game of X-Wing. And it's to do with the length of the table, the size of a ship's base, and range rulers and all of that. And it's basically if both ships deploy on the range 1 line, they will travel a distance of 11 bases before they're in range 3 of each other, if you fly straight at each other. And it just basic understanding of the principle. And it's something that's been around, I would imagine, since playtesting. I was chatting to people after the article came out, and they were talking about, so I was getting some abuse, maybe, that I'd like stolen the idea. And I was like, well, I'd never laid claim to it. I never said it was my idea. It's just something that is true in X-Wing as far as I'm concerned. But,
yeah, it'd be like writing an article on a math equation. It's the exact same thing. I recognize that probably someone was the first to be able to make that identifier, but
basically someone was a bit salty that FFG didn't credit the YouTube channel that has those 11 videos on it.
Yeah, but he wasn't the first guy to come up with that either. I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
But it wasn't his idea either. He borrowed that idea and made a video from it.
Yeah, and that's what I said in the response to that was like, the article lays it out in the same way he did, because it's a good way to lay it out. But basically, understanding how ships move, and that by traveling 2 forwards, you're doing 3 ship lengths. If it's a large base, it would be 4 ship lengths. If it's a medium base, which didn't exist when I wrote the article.
Full credit on that part of it for doing the math on that.
It's like 3.5, well, 3.6. Because the bases are a little bit bigger than a half. And it lets you basically work stuff out and have a better idea of where your ships are going to be. Understanding that then lets you move on to better options for when you're flanking and stuff like that. How far exactly you can push it.
Firing ranges. So before I set this dial, if this is where I think that ship's going to be, and I'd like to stay at range 3, or I want to get in range 1, this is the movement that I need to make to get there. I use it so much now in my head, I don't even think about it. But it's one of those things, like once you get it and you get the math done in your head, you're doing it all the time. And that's how you have some of those advanced level players who know exactly where you're going to be and know exactly where to go to get into that range. They're not guessing. The math's in their head and how they figure out how to get there. It's just an easy rule to kind of help you figure out where you're going to end up and what range you're going to be in at shooting. But it's super useful.
Yeah, I think everybody, no matter what the skill level, actually does it. They just don't realize they're doing it. Guesstimating where you're going to land by doing a maneuver is using the rule of 11. It's not, like I say, it's not a rule you need to sit down and learn to be able to joust better. It's just a truism of the game, and how much effort you put into understanding it is up to you, but you'll be using it regardless.
Yeah, you're not even going to know it. It does help, though. Like, if you're in one of those positions where you're looking at your down, like, where am I going to end up? Because I really want to be here at range 3. It really does help. So if you do take that extra second or 2 before setting the dial, it really does help you kind of figure out where you're going to be on that one. But congratulations. It's a fantastic article. Highly recommend checking that out. You can go to FFG's website and check out the Flight Academy, the Rule of 11. Okay, so that was all the fun. That was all the pleasantries. Something happened today. A thing happened where FFG released something to the public a little bit early in anticipation for second edition.
Well,
and that was
second ed is out today. Today is the actual release date.
Today is the official release date? Okay, well then they did it on release day. Perfect. I thought it was Friday for some reason. But in any case, it's because that's when the store is going to have it for sale. In any case, so they released the app. Fantastic. The squad building app that we saw in the early previews when they were announcing second edition. The web app was released. The Android app was released. The Apple one
I don't think wasn't. It's out yet. If you look, FFG have commented.
Why do you hate my iPhone, FFG?
Well,
what the what?
If you go to FFG's Facebook page, they have said that they will be available today. I know that the Apple Store has more stringent rules than the Google one, so it might just be sitting in purgatory for a little bit longer. But
that's fine, because from what I heard, the Google one came right back down after it went up. So let's talk a little about the misstep on this one. So I guess, of course, when that thing was announced, everyone went to it and it broke. From my understanding of the situation, the one on FFG's website, you weren't allowed to add ships. There were certain ships you couldn't add, certain crews, point costs weren't correct.
When you go into the thing with ships is when you use the different game modes, it was cutting out either too many ships or not enough ships. If you went into second edition, you couldn't fly Wedge. Wedge didn't exist, and Luke didn't exist in second edition X-Wing.
Even though they clearly are. So we should kind of cover that too, because this is one of the first things that jumped out to me. When you're creating a new squad, it asks you what game mode you want to be playing in, and this I feel is, I don't know if it's a tip of the hand a little, and I hope it is. I really do. There are different versions of which you can build your squads in. The first version, of course, is extended, which is everything, including the expansion sets, the conversion kits, and cover everything. But then there's a mode that's strictly second edition. And second edition only comprises the ships and upgrades, or the ships and expansions that came out now. So the stuff that you can go and buy that's in the pretty black box for second edition, it's only that. So you don't have the Defenders, you don't have B-Wings, you don't have the Seeks. There's only the stuff that's coming out on second edition, which I think is an interesting.
Just jumping in here real quick, but they they do have the Saw Gerrera ship.
Yeah, you've got the Reaper and the U-Wing. Remember on the U-Wing, second edition, the only ones that are legal are the ones from the Saws pack. Yeah. Cassian, Bodhi, all the Rogue One pilots are not in second edition. Anything that needs to come out of a conversion kit, whether it be ships or upgrade cards that aren't duplicated in any of the packs, is not second edition.
So the question, of course, comes in, why did they do that? And my hope is, I don't care, one way or the other, whichever way we get to play the game competitively, I'm fine with, and I will deal with and we'll move on from. But I'm curious if they put that button. Obviously, they said there'll be different modes for each different type of event. You can set up your own event. You can only make it, Rebel era if you want. You can make it, as soon as we do Clone Wars ships, which I can't wait for. You can do Clone Wars eras. You can break your event up like that. But they specifically pointed out second edition as being its own particular game mode. So this, to me, we've seen some stuff from OP on events and what's coming down the line and how you're going to play, but we don't know what game mode there's going to be in.
So I have a theory. I have a quick theory on this.
No, go ahead, because you see where I'm going with this.
Yes, well, the interesting thing is, and this might anger some people, but how Disney did Star Wars Legends, and you have basically anything that's within that time frame of the Luke Skywalker era as being canon. I think what we see here, to me, this is just me, it's my theory on it, is we have X-Wing 2.0 is canon. Everything else is Legends now. You can still play Legends mode with Legends ships. But my hope, and this is my sadistic hope in this, is that when you do official tournaments with Fantasy Flight, that it's just 2.0.
Same here.
I would love that. Because then as they release, because they have a pretty aggressive release schedule. Yep. So within 2 years, you're going to have pretty much seemingly every ship available to you that they're going to put out in the 2.0 realm. But you're going to have a lot of ships that you're going to be able to play still. There's nothing stopping you from playing the old Legends 2.0 style game where you have every ship in the game and all the pilots that were converted and everything else. That's what I'm hoping that it is.
What I happen to agree with you. And for me, I think that's going to help set the meta, to be perfectly honest with you. Exactly. If you're a casual kitchen table, I go to the game store and just kind of play, extended's where you want to go. Play with all your ships, have fun, roll dice, enjoy the game. But if we're talking about the competitive meta and it's only second edition ships, that's where a bulk of the competitive net listing guys are going to go to, is that particular area and fine-tuning those ships. See, I never got the privilege of playing in Wave 1. We didn't pick up on the game until just as Wave 3 was coming out. So it would be really kind of cool to play in a balanced meta where there's only 8 ships in the entire game and only so many upgrades to kind of work with. That would be really kind of cool.
But I'm going to say this, and this comes from the experience of the 1.0 era launch time, Wave 1, Wave 2 era, was Fantasy Flight better produce ships. If they're going to do this, they need to produce the ships and get them on shelves. Like today, I walked into a local game store, and I'm not going to say which one, but it was missing ships, and they weren't sold out. They never received them. Now, I don't know if that's shipping error, didn't make it to the store. And the person I asked didn't really know. But Fantasy Flight's going to have to produce ships to be able to do this correctly. If they want 2.0 to be its own game, and that's the game that Fantasy Flight is pushing forward, great. Just please give me ships.
Well, I don't think we're going to have a repeat of what Wave 2 was like. Like, they didn't know how big the game was going to be when Wave 2, so they didn't produce enough to start off with. And you had that gap between Wave 2 where they had a special event to be able to give ships out because they just literally couldn't keep up with the demand. They're a bigger company. They've done this before. I'm confident that they will be there and be available.
As long as they realize, back then, the game was in a smaller, I'm going to call it a market being not every game store, that was out there even viewed X-Wing as a game that they want on their shelves. So it was a smaller market. Wave 3, Wave 4 time frame kind of that's when the game really blew up. But you also now have a bigger market that you're dealing with. You have many more players. When X-Wing Worlds 2013, a lot of people don't realize there was only like 113 players.
But they bumped up from 2012 where there was, 40?
40 some, yeah. But what I'm saying, though, is you see the growth. The growth was large. 2014, which is the year that I helped them out, was we had 2 flights at that point in time, and both were in the range of 120 players.
By the time we went up in 2015, it was
15. It was insane,
it was just and
2 full flights.
Yeah, progressively, it just keeps getting bigger.
Correct, and that's what I'm saying is that you may have the concept or you may have the idea that you need to produce this many ships, but the game is even bigger now. And now, if you're using older models to try to, older production models.
Well,
we know make sure that
we know that for Wave 2, it's not going to be adding extra ships to Rebels, Imperials, and Scum. It's going to be Resistance First Order. They might add new ships to that, but we don't know for certain. But then you've got to look at, they've announced that it's going to be obviously Clone Wars stuff, so that'll come next year. Whether it's Wave,
sometime, we have no idea.
We don't know if it's going to be Wave 3 or not, but that's going to come.
Well, we do know that there's other ships coming, though.
Yeah. So I think it'll be interesting. The difference between the extended format and second edition will only get larger. And I honestly think that second edition will be the format that people choose to play, because I don't know if in extended you will have all 7 factions.
Well, and the other thing, I kind of want to actually thinking about
that's actually a good point. Wow, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, exactly. But I think, too, the change actually may not be with Fantasy Flight, it may be with stores. Stores may actually have to be willing to order more to make sure that they're not in that. If this goes to buyout on Fantasy Flight's part, then we're gonna have to wait till
that's another.
If stores aren't used to the way FFG produce stuff now, more fool on the stores. If it comes up to Christmas and you're not going deep on Catan, because that's like Catan, Pandemic, X-Wing, all of these Asmodee products that share the same model, were once they're out of print for ages because they make them in China because it's cheaper. If you're like, Sentry Box went for 74 of 74 of the ships that already exist. So 2.0 TIE Advanced, we got 74 of them or something like that. Core sets were in the 90s, conversion packs were in the 90s, and pre-orders we maybe had 20. So we're not ordering it to get them, because they're going to fly off the shelves. We're ordering that many because once it's gone, it's going to be gone for ages. Like with a game like Keyforge coming out, we're going really deep on that. Not because we think it's going to fly off the shelves at launch, but because as it picks up steam, nothing cuts the legs out of a game like not being able to buy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, and that's what I'm talking about as far as the game goes with the 1.0 release to Wave 1 to Wave 2, and then we had the just the time frame when you couldn't buy a ship to save your life. You
could buy starter sets all day long, but you could not buy an expansion
buy
pack.
a ship.
I think we've covered a lot on the actual launch of 2.0, not much on the actual app. So I know we do have some specific questions, which they've obviously been asked in regards to the question segment at the end.
Yeah, so we might as well just do it here, since we're kind of on topic. But to button that one up real quick, I hope that its second edition is the way that we play. Kris brings up a really good point that I hadn't even thought of. The fact is new ships are released, and they're only released in the extended, or only in second edition extended. You're going to get those ships. Eventually, they're going to come and work their way into the game. But if second edition is where we're going to go, and we're just starting right there, I'm super excited. I hope that's what they do. So questions about the app?
Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and start with the first question we had here, which was I'm going to mention it just because, hey, he asked the question and all that. Matthew J. Budney asked about app failure thoughts. He obviously did not know that was going to be a big thing of what we were going to be talking about tonight. But, hey, that's a great question, man. I think we just covered that. So
I think we can probably double back on it.
If you want.
Specific thoughts on the actual failure of the app.
Specific thoughts. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kris. If you got it, go ahead. By all means.
I think we've just lost Sean. It's okay. It split you two perfectly into a Windows. There we go. He's back.
Okay.
Hey. So the failures I've seen, obviously the Apple app still isn't here yet. I just checked on my phone while we're talking, and I still can't get it. I can
tolerate that for a day.
Yeah. The website one had quite a few bugs in it. They've put out a Facebook post. They put it out 6 hours ago saying that they were aware of a lot of the issues and they're working to resolve them ASAP. They put a post out 36 minutes ago. I know for me, it's already updated on the website one. I know we were chatting off mic and Ed and Sean still haven't got these fixes showing up. But I mean, the app launched today. There were obviously going to be bugs. If they've actually fixed the ones I've managed to test in a short time, is the difference between extended and second edition now works. You have slots appearing. The variable points costs are working now. That was one of the bugs that wasn't working. So shield upgrades are no longer free of charge. That's working. So
version 1.0.1 is now the one that I see when I try to log into the app. So it looks like they, in a few short hours, were able to get that all squared away.
So I would say that the failure, some form of bug was always going to be in it. Yeah. The fact that they've fixed it that quickly, I can only say that bodes well for the app.
Yeah, that's a credit to them, absolutely. Does it stink that it failed to launch and there was a little bit of a sputter as it was coming out? Sure, absolutely. No disagreement here whatsoever. However, the fix came relatively quickly. Like, they were on it, they found it, and they jumped on it and fixed it.
So I do have Android, and I did check the Google Play Store. It's not back up there yet, though. So I just checked on that.
But Google's got the same thing that Apple does, except theirs is a little bit faster.
Yeah. Well, I know you guys said Apple.
One complaint I saw today was the fact that you had to have internet connectivity to use.
Yeah, we were told that would not be the case. So whether that's going to be for the app rather than for the web-based one, I know that for Tome it works in the cache version, so I'm sure that will come eventually.
Right. A positive. I'm going to throw a positive out there. I like the fact that I can have my phone app or my computer app, and they
tied
link
into the same account.
They link. Yeah. Yes. So if I log into one or the other, they're talking to each other. So I don't have to have like two versions of this always going. It's, hey, if I'm out and about and I want to build a squad, there it is. I understand the people complaining about cellular use. I get that, but I mean, cellular use today, it's going to be minimal. It's not like you're throwing graphics around like there's no tomorrow.
Well, that was one of the things about it, is people are saying that it doesn't cache any of the images. So if you hover over one of the cards, it re-downloads the image every time. So the people were complaining about that I've seen. I was going to run down some pros and cons in my eyes of the app.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I have the other question about the app. I have that up here whenever you want to get to that.
So do you want to break his points down, because I kind of addressed some of them in my response anyway, so we can roll that together.
Okay, nitpicky thing number one: how Runner's not on top. She's the third TIE fighter down.
And they're not listed by the point cost. I noticed that in the printout we had back when we were making lists. Anyhow, Adam Kempers wrote a little bit of a review here when the Google one was up and everything. One, he did mention that there were too many clicks to navigate around in the app at the time.
No, I disagree. I'm playing with it right now. I completely
you're playing with the web version.
Okay,
I'm talking the phone app.
Okay, all right.
He did a review on the Google Play app.
Okay.
That came out and went right back down.
So I'll address that one on the web side of it anyway, because I do have what I assume would be a similar point. You've got scrolling within scrolling up for it. So if you're playing extended, if you go to any of the ships, I'm just doing it as we speak. On the left-hand side of the app, you've got all of the ships available. Then you open that up and it brings all of those. So if you add a ship, then you open up and it takes you to different pages and stuff like that. It would be nice if it was all smoother and rather than taking you to a new page. Right? It's loading really quickly. I've got good internet though, so I don't know how quickly that'll be. But there's a lot of scrolling. You've got the main body of the page, which is your actual list. And then on the left-hand side, you're scrolling up and down pilots. So if you get out of sync with yourself, adding too many pilots too quickly, you can be trying to
they should be collapsible. I think you're probably... If I had to... It is... All right, now that we're kind of nitpicking on it, first of all, it looks beautiful. It's absolutely sharp.
Looks good.
It has all the rules. You can hover over ships on the left-hand side and be able to see what their attack evades, all the abilities are on, and what upgrades they can take. You can see what their abilities do just by hovering over a ship on the left side. But you're right. I think as you're scrolling down the main list, you'd kind of like to be able to click a button and collapse those to kind of shorten up to be able to see the whole list. And the running total is only at the top.
One pet peeve that you say about it showing the cards as you hover over stuff, conditions. If I put Krennic on a card, I don't care that Krennic assigns the optimized prototype. I care what optimized prototype does.
Okay.
That's one big nitpick.
All right, that's okay. I can see that.
This is a really nitpick one. The arrows are the wrong way around for me. So if I want to open up the Reaper to see what different Reapers there are, the arrow is currently pointing upwards, which means that that means I click it to collapse it. So it should point down, telling me I click it to extend it. It points down after you've extended it. So if I click it again, it will then point up again. To me, that's backwards.
Am I missing an area where it shows the dial?
But I don't think it shows dials. Unless I'm missing it.
So I have an interesting one.
Okay, so now I'm going to nitpick about that. They should really show the dial.
Yeah, I do agree with that, actually. I'm in custom format, so I'm looking at, gameplay custom format. I have no place to go. I have to hit my back button to get out of it. I don't have an in-app button that will take me back. So if I do in-app, if I want to do this in-app, I have to hit the Star Wars X-Wing logo in the upper left-hand corner to take me back to the front page. So something like that where and then this is how you're doing it. You're going into New Squad, choose game mode, and there's extended second edition variants and then custom. And then in custom, I go down my custom formats, and then I'm stuck other than hitting the... I know that's picky, really nitpicky, but I would rather see a way to navigate back in the app rather than me having to go and go to a previous page.
Another thing you'll find when you start making a custom format, Sean, because I know you won't be able to resist making a custom format and running an event just for old time's sake.
No,
it's a bit clicky.
Roping back in slowly but surely.
So
I don't know what you're talking about, guys. Patrick McDonald. It all goes to him.
I don't know if I'm clicking to allow or disallow ships, and it doesn't seem that user friendly for that side. So TOs are not going to have fun getting used to it. Okay, what was the next point, Jad?
The next one he came up with was there's no copy ship function to aid with swarms.
Yeah, I'm noticing that too as I'm adding my Academy pilots to the list. Not that big, but it is a little bit nitpicky. But yeah, there should be like a little plus button, especially if it's a generic. You should be able to do that.
I think all players are spoiled who have used other squad builders.
Yep.
Because that feature has been in every single one that I've ever seen. I haven't used them all. But I think that's just us being spoiled as, list builders. I'm sure that will be something that's added in as a feature later. My guess is that, and I don't know how long they've been testing the app. I'm hoping it wasn't very long for the mistakes that were made at launch. But when you're developing something like this, because here's a good example. When Chris Brown was developing Cryodex was very basic. The first moment that I saw Cryodex was prior to the 2013 regional that I ran. That Roy Scales and he was in, and Roy knew Kris, so I was actually going through Roy to talk to Kris to put things into Cryodex prior to the Saturday tournament, and it takes time. The development on this stuff will be a community involvement. It's going to be people, Cryodex, a lot of what Cryodex is, it's Chris's programming, his program, but it's my brain in a lot of what you see in Cryodex.
There is a new part on the actual FFG forums with for app feedback and bug reporting and stuff like that, which is really good to see.
Yeah.
Chad?
Number 3, he mentioned how you must be online, which will make it unusable in many common locations.
Yeah. Disagree with that.
I don't think so.
I mean, if it's an online thing, I know our local gaming store, even though they moved to a new location, they're still having the same issue where a lot of the buildings got those metal roofs that doesn't let a lot of Wi-Fi through, unless it's like not the Wi-Fi, but the general connection.
Most places have free Wi-Fi now. I'm not saying that isn't a problem. He is right that it will be a problem for some people, but I feel like that we were told that it would be usable offline. I have faith that is the case.
Yeah. Number 4, it says lists only export to PDF. Wanted to see a simple text export for the community.
I'm not worried about that.
I'm not worried about it, but if you're if you're lazy and want to post your list to a forum by copy and pasting it, it's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it is.
But
And then finally, number 5 he has here in his little review. The collection feature is unusable without being able to add or delete specific ships.
I disagree with that. And obviously what he's talking about there is if you add a conversion kit, it says that you've got all of the ships in that conversion kit, when you might not own 2 decimators, for example. So that's what he's talking about. But ultimately,
I don't think ultimately it's the ships, though. I think it's you have access to the ability to use the ships. It's not that you own the ships.
Well, what he's saying there, I assume, is that if he clicks a decimator, he doesn't want it to show that he can field a second decimator. But equally, if you're not playing extended, which from the looks of it you might not be, that won't be an issue. So I get what he's talking about, but adding that in, I would much rather they worked on other stuff before that, because in the nicest possible way, I just don't care.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I mean, this was his screenshot of the review he put up on Google Play before it came down. So a lot of those are the Google Play issues he was having.
Yeah.
Looking a little deeper, the screen scrolling crap is annoying. I have 32-inch monitors, and these are huge monitors.
Yeah, and I'm still going.
And I'm not a fan of the screen scroll. I'm sorry, because you have to scroll the main screen down to see the AZ1A. So for me to pick a Z95, I have to do 2 scrolls instead of it picking straight up. And I'm not a.
I wish it doesn't auto sort either. Like so,
right.
I wish that were a thing. That being said, in the time period that we've been sitting here talking about the app, I've been on the web app and I've built 2 squads for what I'm going to fly on Tuesday. It's been lightning fast. I can sit down and go through. I mean, to give all the props necessary, I click on a talent, I can see what talents are available. I click on a missile or a modification, I can see what's available, and the points are right there. Like I said, in the short time that we've been discussing it, I've built 2 squads right over here. I'm ready for Tuesday,
which I will crush Tuesday.
I'm sure you will. I had to make sure. So I built the TIE Swarm, which I can now get 7 TIE fighters in with Iden and Howlrunner. I didn't realize that when the points cost came back out.
It's okay. I've got a better list for you, which we'll talk about in the main segment.
Okay, we'll talk about that. I might build that while we're talking about it. But then I remembered Gustavo's list. I'm like, I got to build a Vader list real quick. And I just built those that fast.
Yeah.
It was super I mean, a little clunky, yes. I think there's some growing pains there, but it's the first time, it's version 1. I think they'll get those little ideas, those little creature comforts, like collapsing those lists, being able to sort them so that they're in order. Like, I want to see Vader on top of the list, damn it. I don't want to see my Academy pilot because that's the last thing that I clicked on. I want to be able to sort them by pilot skill or whatever. But overall, app's fantastic.
And for those who are just listening to the audio, you're using the website, not.
Yeah, no, I am using the website, and if you're listening to this in the past, it's the 1.0.1 version that just came back out. I like it. I love the art. I love the fact that the art on the card's sitting there. I really do wish that if you hovered over a ship, you could see the dial. But in case I don't actually, let me see what it exports out as. Do they actually put that on the dial on the PDF? Let's find out.
Facebook, Twitter, FFG forum, or
do this
PDF.
Live. Screw it. Let's do it live. I love that they've got the 3D barcode for being able to scan into their app. It makes perfect sense. Tells you what version of the squad builder it was built in. That's important to note, especially if there's an update. If you're a TO, you can see which version it was built in. Gives you all the point costs. They don't sort it, so I really wish they did. They did the half-point threshold. That's awesome. They did all the math for you on this.
I don't know if that's actually correct at the moment. So I've seen a couple of dodgy things on it where it wasn't counting shields and stuff like that.
Well, I think that was probably when they were having other issues, too.
Yeah, I haven't double-checked it yet, though.
And the half points is only showing on Vader. It's not showing the other.
Yeah, I was just going to say
points.
that it's only showing on Vader. It's not showing on the other ships. But fantastic. The dial does not show up on this one, but there is a little 3D barcode to kind of replicate the list. Fantastic. For version 1, for all intents and purposes, fantastic. Are there some creature comforts that they could have picked up from other online ones, maybe just played around with them and said, that's a good idea, we should put that in? Sure. I think they're going to get there. I think as the game is progressing, they will get there, they will figure this stuff, and then we'll move on. By the time we get to hyperspace region, the hyperspace events, it's all going to be squared away. Don't worry about it.
Okay, so we're like 5 minutes over on the news segment already. So right, I know Sean wanted to talk about the damage deck kerfuffle. So I think we can put. Well, I was going to say we could do that after we've finished with whatever time we've got left and do it as an in focus show.
I'm good with that.
Do you just want to mention what happened? I will button my lip and not comment.
So I've seen a lot of comments today throughout the Insanosphere of X-Wing about the damage decks. Not everybody getting the promised damage decks.
The special edition with the X-Wing.
It's the T65. Yeah, the T65 full size damage deck. And I've seen posts that say, Fantasy Flight basically, and I'm paraphrasing here, the Fantasy Flight basically guaranteed the deck if you ordered from Fantasy Flight. And then it talked about you needing to get with your local game store, and they need to get with the distributors about getting the decks in. With that said, I see the issue. I see the concept of
Don't
promises.
Go too deep, Sean. We'll cover it again.
Just let me get this out real quick. I see the concept of promises, but I don't see the concept of Fantasy Flight absolutely having to serve every single person with this. That's just my my quick roll on that one.
Yeah, I ordered my starter set specifically from Team Covenant because they said they had it. They sent an email today saying that there was a mix-up, that they did not get the special editions. They will be shipping them out next week, and I will get it. That's it. And is it going to kind of stink? I'm not going to have it when the box shows up? Sure, but I'm going to get it eventually. I mean, I'm a patient person. I'm okay with that.
Moving on.
I think that's going to end it for the news. We're going to move on to the main topic right after this. All right, we're back into the main topic. We're going to start discussing, for those new players to X-Wing 2nd Edition, some of the pillars of actually playing the game, some of the tactics and early strategies that you need to learn, kind of get some concepts behind about winning tactics and strategies in the game of X-Wing. And the first one we're going to cover tonight is Jousting. It's normally one of the very first things that every player is going to realize when they realize that there's a choreographed turn on most of the ships in the game. Hey, wait a minute. If I just turn around and go forward, I'm going to end up back where I came. Why don't I just do that? The analogy of course, comes from medieval jousting, where you've got a list down the middle, and you've got two horses that are going at each other, and they slam into each other, they turn around, they come back and do it again. That's the basic premise behind what jousting is and how it kind of works. In X-Wing, it functionalizes in the concept of the choreographed turn and just turning ships around and shooting at each other for all intents and purposes. Now, there are some ships that are better at it than others. There are some ships that are really horrible in jousting conditions, especially if you have more than one of them. So let's kind of get into it. I'm kind of curious.
So before we go too deep on the jousting, I thought it was worth mentioning, because obviously I think there only used to be 3 pillars, but then obviously FFG's article by Zach expanded upon them. So it would be jousting, dodging, turrets, and bombs are now the 4 pillars. So that's what we're going to be discussing over the period. We're starting with jousting because it's the simplest.
If you want to go back to years and years of Nova Squadron Radio, you can hear Sean, myself, and everyone else complaining about how badly Ordnance was handled for up until, Wave 7, 8 of the game? Because they were in Wave 1, and nobody ever used them. They were super expensive. You couldn't modify dice whenever you rolled them. And then all of a sudden, FFG started figuring out Ordnance maybe a little too well. And then all of a sudden...
They ended up tilting the scale way too far towards Ordnance. Then they tried to fix, and it still stayed on Ordnance side.
Yep.
And then we had the three scum ships. I can't think of what they are right now.
5000.
Jump
the
Masters.
flying toilet seat.
Yeah, the Jump Masters, who had a potentially strong alpha strike, and it is what it is. We're at 2.0. I don't even remember any of that now.
I don't remember any of that at all. Completely wiped from my brain.
So just like you, they overcompensate.
So for jousting ships, is it worth going over what makes a good jousting ship?
Sure, absolutely. I think the first category I'll throw out is you need anywhere between you need a K turn for starters. I think some of the best jousters have the shorter range K turns, or if you want to go converse, you can go for more the long range to be able to do a green maneuver after and be able to get your actions back. It really kind of depends on your flight style.
I think with Talon rolls and swoops in the game now as well, I think that they add another dimension to it.
They do, absolutely.
I was listening to a Carolina Crates because they actually did an episode that involved content relevant to X-Wing, and they Travis and Kris actually verbalized a really good point that everyone understands it, but I don't think people realize it in game, and that is jousting doesn't have to actually be lining up opposite each other and flying straight at each other. If you start on the right flank and your opponent's on your left flank, and you both 4 forwards and then 3 hard, you're both still jousting.
Yes.
So it's more the concept of lining your ships in however you line them up, but at some point in the game you intend to stand toe-to-toe. And I think of it more of in a boxing style of we're just going to stand here both in the pocket and trade punches until one of us goes down.
Yep.
That's how I think of a jousting list. So, whilst I agree that the defender is a good jouster in that respect, in that it keeps its white K so that it can keep modified shots on that turn, I would argue that I wouldn't use a defender to joust a full list. one-on-one in the end game, I might reevaluate my defender's position and then use it to joust a single ship. But when you're thinking about a whole list, I feel like the raw stats are more important than the dial.
So that's interesting that you mentioned that, because in my mind, when you thought jousting, you thought the whole squad. And in my mind, when I thought jousting, I thought single ship to ship. So, like, I know I'm going to make a callback to one of our former hosts, Bob Randall, a.k.a. Major Juggler, when he was establishing jousting values and basically raw ship values and what other crazy mathematical formula he was coming up with. He was coming up with the straight one ship on one ship kind of category. So I guess that's kind of where my brain is trained in the jousting, and that's more late game kind of thing. But you're absolutely right. It's absolutely applicable in the squad versus squad. And you're right. If you're taking it from a squad versus squad, there are a lot of ships I would take out of the equation. And
there's also, well, sorry, Ed,
go ahead.
One of the things that I look at with jousting is within the pillar of jousting, you have styles of jousting, and what a lot of people don't realize, a style of jousting that I love is control jousting, where you're going to throw a ship in the middle of everything to force your opponent to run into and lose all actions.
Its sole purpose in life is to be slammed into.
Right.
Enter the Academy pilot, please.
Correct. And that's the thing about jousting is it's more. There's more to jousting than just two ships pointing at each other, which is one of the things I don't think that a lot of people take into consideration when they're looking at jousting values. Jousting values, a ship, like a good example is a what used to be pilot skill is now initiative value 1 bandit squadron pilot, has really no actionable value other than at range 1 against another ship. But because it moves before most everything else in the game, it has a humongous value because you can stick it right in the middle of everything and just screw everything up. That's why my favorite ship in the game, and everybody knows, at least people who listen to this podcast know, my favorite ship is the Outer Rim Smuggler. And now that Outer Rim Smuggler grew up and became a big boy, that's a ship that a lot of people should look at as a jouster. It's a true jousting ship, but it has other things that it can do other than jousting. And the key piece to me in jousting is, just as long as everybody understands, jousting just isn't pointing two ships at each other and shooting. There's even more depth to jousting than what meets the eye.
Yeah, I feel like if I wanted to make a list of its primary focus, and I feel like, again, I feel like I'm stealing stuff from the Travis now, but like the win condition of the list is to joust. Sean's dropped again. We'll push on. It's fine. If the win condition of your list is to joust, there's going to be a couple of ways to go about it. There's always going to be the best jousting list. So we're assuming at the moment that TIE Swarm is going to be the jousting list of choice.
It's going to be mine. That's where I'm starting.
And then the way I think of it when I'm trying to put a list together is you find the most efficient jousting ship, and then you multiply that by the number of ships you can get into a squad. So whilst 1v1, a defender might joust better than a TIE fighter, can it beat 2 TIE fighters? Can it beat 3 TIE? So if you can do 3 defenders that can all token stack, if you plonk them at range 2 and then range 1 of a swarm, who's going to win? And like, if you use a 6 TIE swarm with Hull Runner, you're looking at getting probably around about 9 or 10 hits that you're going to have to defend against.
And only so many green dice to ward those off.
Yeah. So you have your focus token for defense once. They'll all have focus token for attack.
And a reroll with Howl Runner.
Yeah. So when you looked at it like that, I think I looked at it with a 2 agility ship defending, and you're expecting, if all 6 of them shoot 1 ship, it's probably taking 6 or 7 damage.
Yep.
So,
how many ships in the game have 6 or 7 damage that they can take in one round of shooting? It's not very many.
Not many. Yeah, there's definitely not many.
That's great in theory, but that's assuming that those 3 defenders didn't kill off 3 TIE fighters before the TIE fighters got to shoot.
Yeah,
correct.
And that's what I mean. That's why I say you can joust with any list, but you have to be cognizant of the choices you're making and understanding that if the other list is better and you still joust it, you are making a mistake. So if your win condition is jousting, you probably want to maximize the efficiency of that. And that comes down to finding the most efficient ship and using it in the most efficient way, lining up those shots. So for Empire, I was going to cover off a couple of different ways of doing it. So what I'm going to talk about first that I thought of is a 6 TIE swarm. So it's designed to literally sit in a block of 6 ships. You fly them straight at your opponent, focus every time, and that is all you need to think about. Point these 6 ships at your opponent and focus. Then it's got Hell Runner, Iden, Delmico, who... okay, I'll go through all of them. And then Cena Mariner.
Oh, no, I got it. Delmico, I've got you covered.
Yeah.
Friendly ship at range 0 to 2 defends against a damaged attacker. That defender may reroll an additional defense die. I'm building it as you're talking because I might borrow this list.
Then we have Wampa and an Academy pilot. So we have 5 named TIE fighters and a PS1 Academy. So Hellrunner gives you rerolls if you're within range 0 to 1 of her. So herself and all the 5 others will be re-rolling 1 die per attack.
Finally, she can affect her own attack rolls.
Iden lets you have an extra life for any of your ties, including herself. And Delmico is, as Ed was saying, range 0 to 2. If you're defending and your attacker is damaged, you may re-roll 1 of your defense die. So he gives you defensive re-rolls. And he has swarm tactics. Then,
okay, so you gave him. Oh, I see where you're going.
Cena Mariner, I don't know. Is while you perform an attack, you may spend 1 crit. So it's Old Wampa to deal 1 face down damage card to a defender. Then you cancel the rest of your results. She has swarm tactics. Oh, so you didn't actually want
real Wampa. You wanted the new Wampa.
No, so she's got swarm tactics. Then we have Wampa, who...
You didn't say her in the original.
Yeah, that's okay.
When you perform an attack, you may spend your charge to roll an additional die. Obviously, he's getting swarm tactics up to initiative 4. And your academy is getting swarm tactics up to initiative 4 as well. So the lowest initiative value you shoot at is initiative 4 to try and PS kill stuff. If you can lay damage onto a ship, your entire swarm is getting rerolls from that ship. I wouldn't advise splitting fire. That is always a bad plan. So don't think, if I shoot everything, I can get rerolls for days. Pick your target, kill it, and then try and put some damage on something else.
That's X-Wing 101 stuff. Yeah. Focus fire. Pick a ship, take it off the board, move on. If you split fire, you're going to end up chasing those. You're going to be chasing those points forever.
Yeah, but you've got a multitude of targets to choose from here. When your opponent has a multitude of targets, do we want to take out Hellrunner? They've got Iden to keep something alive, Delmico to help keep stuff alive. You've got people dealing uncancelable damage. You've got Wampa who's getting an extra attack if they don't shoot him first. And at initiative 4, there's a good chance that Wampa will be attacking early enough anyway. And then your academy is your academy, and that leaves you with a 1-point bid, which is irrelevant, really.
Well, and I think the upside to this one, the academy goes in at initiative 1 for the blocking purposes, and then gets swarm tactics up to initiative 4 for attacking purposes.
Yeah. And I think I would use this list against another TIE swarm.
Yeah, I could see that because the high PS bid on this one, the higher initiative pilots will get to shoot first before all of the generic Black Squadron, Obsidian Squadron, stuff like that, the academies. I like the list. I'm going to have to give this a shot.
So that's one use. Period.
Yes.
Yeah, well,
Chad's picking up on Aiden's special ability is only one use and one use only. He's correct. However, when facing a TIE swarm, if you want to cripple a TIE swarm quickly, the way you do that is you take out Howl Rider. She's the hub of that list. Once she's gone, the list loses a lot of its efficiency. So you need to be able to find ways to keep her alive. That includes positioning her in the correct places so that if they are shooting at her, they're shooting through all the other ships at range 3 to get to her. And then the second ability of having Aiden's ability to be able to pull off any damage that she were to take the first time around. It extends her life and extends her ability to be able to stay on the board, and hence increases the efficiency of the squad.
Yeah. So the way I look at this is what I was talking about earlier, of having to consider the points I'm investing in each ship. That ability, when you add all of these extra points up, are they worth an extra TIE? Whether it be is it worth an extra Academy pilot?
Going back to some of the old 40K thought, like, does this buy the points back? If I go through and put all these modifications on, is that buying me what an extra Academy pilot would buy me? Yeah. And I think, looking at your list, I would tend to agree, yes.
And I feel like that's how you have to approach it when you're looking at a jousting list. Every choice you make, does it actually do anything that if I strip it down and add an extra ship in, is that better? Is there a better way of doing the same thing? And if that thing is flying at people, and again, stealing directly from Travis on the crates, if you're wanting to play the trench run list with Luke, Wedge, and Biggs, and you want to fly it at TIE swarms, you're doing it wrong. If you want to joust with X-Wings, you're probably going to lose. If you want to joust a TIE swarm with X-Wings, you're definitely going to lose. The bit doesn't work out. If you want to joust with Rebels, you need to look at a different list.
And speaking of that, I have a different list for Rebels it is a jousting list, which is, and I'm calling it kind of an homage to Ron Brannon, but
this was the list I was going to go with.
5 Z's and a B. So you're using just 5 bandits. That's your chaff, as I call it. That's what you're going to throw at them for action control. And then you're going to use Braylon Stram. Because Braylon Stram is going to be the workhorse of this list. If he can survive, he's going to be a pretty big workhorse. I put outmaneuver on him because Braylon is not going to try to face anybody in this list. He's going to play a side role, try to use the abilities to get on the sides, and then just blast people with HLCs and ion cannons. He's going to use advanced sensors. He's going to use the outmaneuver as a key piece. He'll have ion torpedoes and then the shield upgrade. So it gives him a little bit more of a structure or more of a durability piece.
Yeah, so you've got the strong jousting component there of the 5 bandits.
Right.
And then you've got Braylon, who you're trying to use to flank, and right. If you sit Braylon in with those bandits and fly them straight at them, that list will lose.
Absolutely, every time.
So,
but the jousting component, it's just kind of like, you view Howl Runner as that the long-term survivability of a list is with Howl Runner staying alive. The difference between Braylon and Howl Runner is Howl Runner you're going to keep in the list. And you're going to try to protect Howl Runner as much as you can by your maneuvering. But at the same time, it has to stick with the academies or blacks or whatever TIE fighter you have with it. Whereas the bandits are doing the dirty work. They're doing the blocking to eliminate actions. The bandits want to be in range. This is a list where you're looking at it kind of differently. Bandits want to be in range 1 to roll an extra die. And I have a different version of this where I use swarm tactics also, so that I can give the initiative value of a 4 to a bandit if I want to. So I kind of have 2 versions of this. But the advanced sensors is great for Braylon because I can do with a 2K turn or any maneuvering that I need to do to get into position or even out of position, yet still have actions going at the same time. And that's a key, like you said, Kris, the point of this is not to stick Braylon in front of everybody. The point of this is to action, If you have to, hopefully you're doing red maneuvers because of his ability. And then from there...
Linked action, focus barrel roll, Sean.
Exactly. You got it right there. And, I mean, this is my style of list. This is a list that I view as being fun. And it's a play on the old 4BZ, concept of the list.
It's funny you mention that list because I'm sitting here building it as we're talking. 4B1Z comes at 191 points. I still have 9 points to play along.
Yeah,
and that's without Braylon.
Like we spoke about as well, obviously. Like the choice Sean's making there is to spend double the points on one ship to work that ship harder to get those points back. The jousting component is those 5 bandits who are going to fly up, do their job. And you've got, Sean, using that list, anyone who wants to try it, and this isn't a criticism of the list, this is a jousting topic. If you're going to do that, you have to get that extra value out of Braylon because you're sacrificing 2 ships minimum out of your joust.
Exactly. That's true. And that's the point. Going with 7 bandits is the easy way to go.
Yeah.
If you think about it, might even be a better way to go. But the way that I look at the bandits, they're not end game ships. They're not pieces that are going to win you the game. Braylon, the reason why I like this build is because if you play Braylon correctly, or your opponent allows you to play Braylon correctly, you could potentially just Braylon alone, just on the approach, take a ship off the table with the HLC and the Ion's ability. And I like the Ion ability because it becomes another control piece or it becomes another control mechanism on the board where, with large base ships or medium base ships, you can kind of control their maneuvering with the new Ion cannon or the new Ion rules. And that's the interesting thing to me is with him, because I'm able to action prior to doing any maneuver, and then I can Ion. That's a pretty good piece in this meta today. If you're going up against 2 large base ships or medium, the double IG list that I'm sure we'll see a lot of in the beginning. If you're playing that form of X-Wing. In the 2.0 era, Kris, and this is what I'm looking at, if we're playing in a 2.0 era game, this is a strong list. Because there isn't a lot of stuff that is going to be able to focus at Braylon continuously, other than, of course, TIE fighters, when you're shooting 6 or 7 TIE fighters at this one ship, which then you have to play this extremely smart.
Right. They can't afford to focus on one ship and ignore the other 5 that are just going to be slinging dice at them the whole time. And, oh, by the way, they're coming in at PS1. They're going to block all the ships. They're going to gum up the works while they're there. Like, no, that's fantastic.
Right. And I do have one more version of this, too, where I get the Ion off and I put the tractor beam on, which gives me a 6-point or 4-point bid at that point, too.
Okay.
So right now I'm at a 2-point bid.
I've got one for you, Sean. You'll like this one better. I guarantee it. And this
Fun
one
with the app builder live as we're going. This is awesome.
Okay. So if I wanted to make your list into a list that wins by jousting, so sacrificing the having to actually think and use Braylon properly, I would still have the 5 bandits. Then you take Brody Rourke with Zeb. So he allows you to, any ships in your list can get target locks that range 0 to 3 of any ship. So you can measure from any ship to get target locks. Okay, that's 50 points. Then on your 5 bandits, you take cluster missiles and munitions failsafe. Brody tanks it straight forwards.
Sean.
Rams into them. He's got Zeb, so Brody can still attack at range 0. So he can shoot a person who's bumped into him. Everyone can get the target locks from range of him. And then they can fire away with the missiles attacking 2 ships each.
Yep.
That is a hell of an alpha strike. I love that.
And that's the thing. That's the beauty of jousting lists. And in the world of 2, and I'm not talking about the extended game. I'm right now focusing on 2.0. You know, there's going to be so many variety of jousting lists out there that it's going to be so much fun. You know, jousting for a lot of people is boring, but it is. There's a skill to jousting that a lot of people don't realize.
You need to be able to realize pretty early on what style, like, this one's not too bad, but you've got like Alpha Strike jousting lists that we're really happy to fly. So a good example of this for the older players now would be the Triple Jump Masters. They would joust you in the early game, and then it would move into a control game after that. So they'd fly straight at you, get the locks, fire the torpedoes at you, do as much straight up front-loaded damage to the face, and then they'd try and mess you up. The end game win conditions were through blocking and getting unanswered shots by being behind you or at the side of you at range 1 and using the fact that they were turrets. So they had like 2 ways of winning whilst still classing themselves as a joust.
They always would toss in the net, or what was the crew member that would allow them to see your dial? Intel agent, thank you. So when they would get into the mid game and after they fired off that Alpha Strike, then they'd know where your dial was, and that ship was so maneuverable that they'd be able to do a hard 1 turn and a barrel roll and be able to block you the whole way, while the other ships, they only had 2 attack dice on their turrets, but darn it, you had no tokens to help you out. That's why that list was so super efficient in what it was doing. Had an amazing Alpha Strike and it had a great mid game.
And I think those kind of ordnance lists can still joust, like barrage rocket bombers back to Imperials are going to be really good at flying at stuff and taking it off the table.
I have like 6 bombers. I'm gonna try that. We should talk a little scum. We haven't touched that much on that.
The Kimagilla for scum is going to be a good jouster because if you put some ordnance on it, but you have to, when you do that, you have to maximize how much effectiveness that ordnance has, or else you've wasted points. You should have played a TIE Swarm.
Yes, I agree.
The burden of execution, as soon as you veer away from the most efficient ship, the burden of execution is on you. If you then lose, it is your fault as a player for making the choice to not run the most efficient ship. So if you joust someone with not the most efficient jousting list, that burden of execution is on you to make that work.
See, one of the other points I want to point out with jousting lists too, and I think we're all kind of focused on that primary engagement, that first time the dice are rolled. And a lot of people can get that. You can figure out how to fly formations. You can fly 6 TIE fighters through an asteroid belt to be able to get them to gulf fire off that first shot. But once they've had contact, that's where the good and the great players are separated from the mediocre, because then they know how to re-up themselves, get themselves back into a fighting formation and be able to spread out and be able to start doing that. A majority of this that we're talking about here has been focused on that primary engagement, but there's a lot of other things where jousting ships become great at because they survive contact and continue on. And I think that's one of the things is an X-Wing player that always becomes a big thing is, what do I do after all the dice are rolled, the smoke settled from that initial contact, and I've got 4 ships left of my six ship TIE Swarm. What do I do now? That's where some of the up and arounds and turnarounds and the sloops are really going to start coming into play.
Once you start thinking of X-Wing in those jousting terms and the efficiency of the given ships, you can use that information and reassess constantly through the game. Because your list is good at jousting in the early game, if you've spunked all of your munitions, it's not good at jousting anymore. You need to have a plan for after that. If you're TIE Swarm, if you've lost Hull Runner, you need to start, like, do you break up and try and pull people around? Do you run? Running isn't a bad thing. As an example, if I'm using Sean's list, and I've got Braylon with 1 health left, and they've got Wedge with 2 health left, I'm not going to joust Wedge in the endgame.
Nope.
That would be a mistake. So I need to run. My win condition then changes from jousting to running. That's the only way I win this game.
Right, but that's where that thought process comes in. So if you do have Braylon at 1 and you decide to break Braylon off, you can then tail Wedge with the remainder of your squads. And that's learning and setting up that position of setting up that kill box. That he's basically bait. You're going to kite Wedge into a position where you need him to be so that you can get off those other shots to finally take him out. And I know that we keep using these analogies, and for those of you that are new to the game, we're kind of the vets are going to know this, but we talk about this a lot. The opening, the mid, and the end game. These are chess analogies, but they are extraordinarily apropos of X-Wing as well, because the game does function in those phases. You do have that opening where this happens. That's where jousting happens in that initial contact, and then the mid game, and then closing out that game and trying to win it. It's those little tactics like that, those little tweaks to how to play a game of when to kite a ship in one direction to lead it where you want it to be. It's one of the things I love about this game. It's chess with guns. I've always said that, and I will continue to say it. It's a fantastic game.
Has anyone got any other standout jousting ships they wanted to cover off?
Well, I know that Sean bumped into the IGs, and I think that those are while they're on the medium-based ships, those are really good examples of great jousters, simply because of their dial.
Are you not conflating that a little bit to first edition?
Yeah, you're probably right.
So bear with me. If you analyze that statement, HLC was a big part of the reason why we were good at it, and token stacking.
Yes.
They don't have auto thrusters, so they take damage at range 3. You have to be in the bullseye arc to use that HLC, so you're giving up range bonuses when you shoot back. So they are not the jousting.
First ed thought.
Yeah, they are not the jousting powerhouse that they used to be.
Okay, well then, aside from the Key Magilla, what would you think? The Kirax, maybe? Because that was like the equivalent that I could have. Yeah, it's basically the Scum version of an X-Wing for all intents and purposes.
So for Scum, you are looking at it being the Z95, the same as those base ships. You have to near enough every ship that you're going to talk about with an upgrade to make it better at what you're trying to do. Would you be better having 2 binary pirates and flying those at your opponent?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that this is how you should build every list. This is with a mind to jousting.
Yeah, when we start getting into some of the other lists, like if you're going with aces, they're going to be arc dodging. That's a completely different build.
Yeah, if that is the primary, if you want to be able to just point this list at your opponent, that's where you need to start looking. The base efficiency ship in your faction. Then you make the judgment call of, I started off with 8 TIE fighters. Then I took 2 out and put Hellrunner in. Then I took out another 2 and put another ship in, and I had points left over, which let me do this, this, and this.
Kris, if I'm looking at, so you're talking about jousting Scum ships. So let's just look at 2.0 right now. I don't want to look at the extended. I want to focus this list on 3 bounty hunters.
Ooh,
Reinforces strong.
3 bounty hunters. You're chewing through 30 hit points to begin with. So you're rolling 2 defense dice, so you're equal to a TIE swarm, you're equal to the Z swarms, that type of situation. Your survivability is very good. Good action economy, good actions.
Fantastic dial.
A great dial. And it's a medium-based ship. So it's potentially, and I haven't played any of this yet from medium-based, but potentially a little bit better of a maneuvering ship now.
Well, it's also, I would think, in that same light with the same size ship, it's a better blocker. Right. Because you're going to be able to sideswipe and be able to and basically make a hard turn in and block multiple ships and get a hold.
And if I'm not mistaken, these guys have a 4K, correct?
And they've got the rear arc still.
Yeah, I understand that. But what I'm saying though is, for positioning purposes, to always keep them in a position to be in the game, that 4K, having 1 shooting rear arc, 2 shooting forward arc because they cater however it works for you. In the 2.0 game, I think 3 bounty hunters are going to be a brutal list to beat. It just in the jousting side, just the jousting side.
Good call.
Now, if you're looking at extended, this list doesn't fit because there's just too many other good jousting ships in the game.
If I wanted to do a scum jousting list with just 2.0, I would take 3 naked zealous recruits and Fenro. And this one involves you slow roll. So this comes to a rule of 11. So you slow roll the first turn, then you beast it forwards as quick as you can in the second turn and land everyone at range 1. And then you go, do you have Concordia face off? Because I do. If you don't, I win.
Right.
Because Concordia face off is really good.
Yeah.
Do you want to read that off for the folks that might not know that one off the top of their head?
While you are defending, if the attack is range 1 and you are in the attacker's arc, change 1 result to an evade. So it's like having an evade token that doesn't go away.
It's a good call. And it gives you an excuse to use all of your new spinny Fang Fighters.
So I bought 2. I wanted to buy 4, but I was like, I should probably not, because then I will run this list. And I've not looked at it in depth, but I feel like having boost into red focus to get into range 1 of things is really good. They've got a good amount of green on the blue on their dial. Sorry, first edition.
That's okay. We've been doing it all show.
And then you've got Fenro.
How would you tech him out?
He's naked. You can't tech him out. That is exactly 200 points. But it doesn't matter because you use him as if he was a zealous recruit.
Yeah, good call.
Because then he still has Concordia face off, but he's rolling 4 dice instead of 3. And he's rolling 5 dice on his attack.
Oh, that's dirty.
So that...
I was going to buy 2, which will give me 4. That might be, if I run a scum list, I might have to give that a shot.
Yeah, I think that there's potential there. Again, I don't know that it beats 7 TIE fighters, but if you're at range 1 of them, it might just do it.
Oh yeah, it might evaporate more than enough ties to cripple that list.
Yeah.
How Runner's gone.
So, real quick, Kris, I know how much you like to play with the ships that have movement to them now and everything. When I was at Nova Open and I did a demo game of 2.0 with Linda, did get to
you've actually played a game of 2nd edition.
Yeah, I did get to see the Protectorate Starfighter, and the peg does come right up through the middle.
Yeah.
And I did notice that it was really, really stiff to with the spinning of the wings.
Wait, the peg comes up from the bottom of the ship?
It comes up into the bottom. So the wings do not 360. They only go hit the stick, hit the stick. It doesn't come into the back.
See, I thought I had seen one where there was a hook on the back so that it could spin that way.
The one that they had on the demo table. Yeah, the one on the demo table didn't. So... And then, like I said, it was a bit stiff. I thought I was going to break the thing, and the guy came over because I said, "About doesn't this move?" Because the wings were on an angle, and I'm like, "Is this something you guys just like somebody had it was modified it?" Or he's like, "No, that's the one that moves." I'm like, "I think I'm going to bust this if I try it," And he was just like, "No, it's just a bit stiff." So you might have to work with yours a little bit if you want to sit there and play with the rotating wings.
I don't know where I saw that. Maybe someone made.
I think somebody made their people have made their own modifications. Yes,
so that the peg comes out the back where the engines are,
like a B-wing comes out the back.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it kind of did this little loop thing, but yeah, in principle, yes. But the idea was that it would still spin 360 around the ship. That
was probably a homemade version. Yeah,
if that's the case. Oh well.
Okay, so another scum list. This is the one I was actually going to run. This is what I bought my 2 for, is you take Boba Fett with practically nothing, just fearlessness.
Just bare naked Boba Fett.
And then 2 Skull Squadrons with fearlessness, and then you just bum rush people.
It's the same principle idea.
Yeah.
Like they're super great. They're efficient.
So the reason why I would look at Boba Fett being viable for this is, again, if you can get him at range 1, he gets the rerolls on defense as well. Mm-hmm. So it works similarly to a Concordia and gives you an extra 2 hit points overall in your list. But then you've got to look at you're sacrificing 4 attack dice at range 1 to get the extra hit points. So
and the other part of that you're sacrificing is that in the mid game, the Fang Fighter isn't that bad of an arc dodger either, and it really does become a little bit. You can shift your game from a jousting list to an arc dodging list towards the mid game.
Yeah, but you do get bombs in this one.
Yeah, you do.
So I think that's where I'd be looking for scum. If you're going 2.0, I think you've got to look at Zealous Recruits and Fenro. There's no advantage to giving that. You can take 4 Zealous Recruits with ion torpedoes. That would give you a measure of control if you ever get to lock people, but you're going at initiative 1, so you probably don't get the locks. I was just going to
point that out, yeah.
So that's why I feel like going 3 and Fen is how you make a scum jousting list at the moment.
I might have to give that a shot.
You've
talked me into it.
You could go with 4 freighter captains if you want to buy that many Lando's Falcons.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be potent enough. A lot of hit points.
Yeah.
But with 2 attack dice, 1 defense die, they're kind of limited.
No, I don't think it beats a TIE Swarm.
No, I think it actually gets annihilated by a TIE Swarm.
I don't know about annihilate. I think it'd be cool. Like 4. You've got 4 of them, Ed. You've got 4 Lando's Falcons.
Yeah, it's 11 hit points. It's 44 hit points. You got to shoot through.
They all shoot at you at range 1, and one of you is still and don't kill the first one. Then you shoot 4 times. The next turn, 1 dies, and you do half of another one.
Right.
Yeah.
It's conceptually the 4BZ model. You have to take a B off at the every turn to be able to beat that list, and that's why that list was so good.
I guess it's the 2 attack dice that I'm not sold on. I'm sold on the durability, but you're only rolling with 8 attack dice.
Yeah, but you have to take in the Jumpmaster history. Jumpmaster, you did the same thing with 3 of them with fewer hit points, and same concept. Now, turrets have changed a lot.
Turrets have changed. The ship was more maneuverable. The ship had a barrel roll. I mean, there's a lot of other contributors.
There's always going to be give and take, but we've already proven 2 dice ships can do it. Aaron Bonner proved it in X-Wing 1.0 Wave 2 era by running Rebel Convoy at Worlds and making the cut. And then, of course, he had a bad game and got eliminated. But we know that 2 dice ships can work. Jim Blakely did the same thing with the original Rebel Swarm with the 2. There's ways of doing it.
And maybe I'm still stuck in that first edition thought process that 2 attack dice isn't super potent. Damage is going to stick a lot more. Like, there aren't a lot of evade tokens out there. There aren't a lot of ships, period, that have the action, let alone it doesn't do nearly what it did. So,
an action economy has been changed so much.
Yeah.
To where token stacking is very limited. The IG change, that's going to be huge for IGs. Now, they're going to be a different style of ship. They're still going to be pretty tough to beat. Calculation, I don't care what anybody says, is a very good concept, especially when you're stacking calculation.
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that you get to pull that off in multiple attacks or multiple defenses, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not as effective as multiple focus, but it's still very potent in what you're trying to do with it. That's where I think X-Wing 2.0 has taken us back into a world of X-Wing 1.0 early on, because all the bells and whistles are gone.
Yep.
The linked actions are cool, but they're not, every ship doesn't have them, and every ship doesn't have an opportunity to have them. And so you're going to go back down to bare bones thinking. You have to go back to that original thinking when you're playing 2.0, and I qualify that, when you're playing 2.0, that thinking has to be like it was in original early on 1.0. You're playing extended, it's build to your desire and find a way to break the game. That's the whole point of it is, find a way to use the old ships or all the ships to break the game. And there's going to be lists out there when you go back to, when you're playing the extended version of this game, people are going to find those lists that are still going to break the game in a way, not as drastically as we did before, but there's still going to be ways to do it. And that's going to be the interesting part. The other thing is that we also have a limited amount of upgrade cards. We don't have the plethora of upgrade cards that we had in 1.0 at the end of 1.0, where you could do pretty much anything you wanted to at the end of that thing. Now that's been reduced.
To camp onto that point, though, like even if something did come out that broke the game, they fix it.
Yeah, they just fix it.
They point adjust it, so like it's not set in stone anymore. Like it's a brave new world. I'm really looking forward to. Oh wow, this one list dominated such and such hyperspace trial. Okay, well we need to readjust those points. Here's the first point adjustment, and that one's now 6 points more.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you can't run 4 Fang fighters because Kris just broke the game with a 4 Fang fighter list.
Right, and as long as they react quickly, that'll be a good thing. Right now the card that scares me the most in the game is Luke Skywalker turret or gunner.
Yep.
That is a very scary card in the game because
of 12 points. Like, I agree 100% that it really kind of backwards sets the mentality on a turret. A, it's one ship. Unfortunately, that one ship is going to be Dash.
Right.
Yeah, I think there are going to be ways that they're going to be able to appoint adjust. I think he's probably going to get a bump. Maybe he doesn't affect the meta at all. I mean, again, this is a Luke Skywalker conversation, but he is taking up the ability of a gunner to take a second attack. Now, is it worth it to get that 4 or 5 die attack on a single ship? Probably. I'd be willing to trade that.
I would too.
And you still get your action because you're being able to you don't need to spend your action on adjusting your turret.
Right. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree. That one's a rough hurdle.
We kind of lost focus there. But...
So I do have one more Rebel jousting list for you. And this one is 2.0 only again. So it is 5 Gold Squadron Y-Wings. All of them with selfless. So they are all bigs. So you better hope that you don't roll all crits when you hit them, because then that damage gets dispersed across the whole squad.
Oh my god.
And they all have seismic charges.
Just to make sure as they're leaving the first engagement, they're going to drop some bombs on the way back.
Yeah.
You could squeeze 5 Y-Wings.
40 points each.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's what my favorite ship in the game, as a lot of people know, is Y-Wing. Or the ORS version of the YT. YT is my second. I would let you Y-Wings, I think. So
I would let you fly 4 X-Wings into that list.
Oh, absolutely. I would love that.
So that's what I mean. When you start looking at just jousting, if you are going to line up and fly at me, Rebel on Rebel, I think that is a way to do it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
So many good, cool list ideas.
Yeah, you're not going to take me down. All I got to do is roll 1 of 8 in all the attacks, and I live.
Yeah. 8 hit points, and any crits are getting spread onto somebody you didn't want to shoot at.
Somebody else, yeah. Yeah, it's... yeah, this is what I thought of, but I've tried to keep it as quiet as possible. Thanks for shooting that one out there.
He'll edit it out later.
You should have said, we can't do a jousting show, Kris, because I want to be a goat.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, man, I'm just learning the game. What do you think? But no, I mean, that's just it. The coolest...
You've got the blister, the Rebel Aces, and the Scum and Villainy one. That's 3.
Oh, wow. He's right. I've got so many Y-Wings down there. I've got more than enough Y-Wings to make that list. He's right. I totally forgot about those. Boom. I have 5 Y-Wings sitting right there in that case. I am giving that shot. I'm giving that shit a try.
And once again, Ed steals a list he heard from somebody else.
It's all right. I mean,
I'm just so excited to play 2nd edition X-Wing. It doesn't matter what I throw on the table. Whatever it's going to be on the Tuesday, it's not going to matter.
As long as you actually play this time.
Yeah.
Every list we talk about. Go on.
I just want to throw one thing out about the app builder. I was just thinking about this right now. On the cards, on the upgrades, they need to put where they came from.
Yeah.
Oh,
just on the app, so that I know what I need to get selfless. I need 5 selfless. Well, where do I need to get them from?
Yeah.
You know?
That's a good point as to what expansions they come in.
Right.
They are in the T65 expansion for selfless.
Right.
And the conversion pack.
Right. But I'm just saying it would be nice to see something like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to take us off focus again.
But yeah, so all I will do, I'll reiterate before we close out this segment that when looking at doing a jousting list, if you want to win by flying at your opponent, brute forcing them off a table by rolling dice at them, whatever you spend points on, roll it all the way back to the cheapest ship in the game, and is multiples of that better? And you've got to be honest with yourself. If the answer's no, it doesn't mean you shouldn't run the squad. It means that you are taking the burden on you to outperform the math.
Yep. I think that's a good closing point, my friend.
That's a good point. Yep.
Anything else we want to cover on jousting? I think we've talked about it a lot, and I've been inspired quite a bit. I think I've made 3 lists while we've just been sitting here going, oh, man, that's a great idea. There are my selfless Gold Squadron pilots, man. Oh, boy, can't wait.
Dodging next time.
Arc dodging next time. That's going to be another good one because we'll be able to see.
Something I know a lot about.
Absolutely. But I'm curious as to how much arc dodging is going to take place in 2.0 where we are right now if we're just playing 2nd edition, because there aren't a lot of good arc dodgers. I mean, the Fang Fighter is probably a good example, but I'm sure we can hit on a lot more of those.
Oh, I'll find them.
Oh, yeah, no, of course, absolutely. There's a whole bunch of things. I can't wait to talk about the
I love flying ships that are very maneuverable and making ships maneuverable, and yeah.
This is a dirty list, Chris. This is so good. Anyway, we'll move on and close out the show right after this.
Recording now.
I'm recording now, too. All right, so that is going to do it for episode 7, the app Awakens of Lack of Focus. I do want to thank everyone for joining the show. We do have a couple of pieces of house cleaning we want to do. Let's start off with listener questions. We've had a couple of Facebook postings and questions for the staff, and I have closed my eyes and closed my ears, and I don't know most of them, but let's go ahead and move on to some questions. Sean, one of them was directed directly at you, and since you're here, I'm going to let you lead that one off.
Okay, this is from Gustavo.
You rock, bro!
Woo!
His question is, when I started playing X-Wing and listening to Nova Squadron Radio, I followed the Dorcy rule. That is, I bought as many ships as I could fit, generics in a list. This is why I have 7 Z95s.
You can have 8. You can have 8.
Understood. And 3 as 4 Phantoms, and the list goes on and on. Do you think that this is still valid for 2.0, as in getting multiple upgrade cards? Absolutely not. I do not think this is valid for 2.0. So I'm going to speak to 2 things on this. Number one, the reason why I did a lot of that was because community building. At the time, I was building a community. Ships were really, and I did it up through Wave 5. I also did it because my son started playing, and basically we needed enough ships for us to both play if we were both playing. But in reality, yes, in 1.0 you would do that. And the reason why you would do that is because you could run the swarms. You know, swarms were valid for a while, and they were variable. You know, you can run variances on swarms for a while. With 2.0, I don't think that should be, number one, you have the conversion kits. So you're not needing to buy actual physical ships as much unless you want a specific upgrade in there. But I think that in 2.0, at least my opinion of 2.0, is there's going to be a lot of ships, a lot of variants, and 2.0 is different than 1.0 in the way a lot of ships function. I was looking, as an example for my Joust list, when I was looking at Z95s, Kris brought the point up that you could go to 7 to 8 Z95, 7 Z95s, and remove one ship and make it so that they're all Joust value ships. Or you can take that ship out. Now, I would never fly that list with 7 Zs. I want something that is effective in a mid-game and end-game fashion. And that's why the B-Wing, to me, is a great knife fighting. It can go, it's a good end-game ship as long as you're not playing against Arc Dodgers. Arc Dodgers with higher initiative will kill it. But with Initiative 4, that's a pretty good initiative in the game. So my personal opinion, and this is just me, no, you don't need to go to the ends of the earth and buy as many ships as you can fit, generics. Buy what you need. Buy what you're building, buy what you're playing to, and I think that's my rule of thumb for this one.
Yeah. To follow on from that, I'm the same. I started off when I got back into X-Wing. I bought 4 Phantoms. I had 8 Z95s. I've got like 20 TIE Fighters through whatever means. And the number of ships I had that I've never used, I bought 3 K-Wings after seeing Aaron do it. I used them once. I've fielded 8 Zs once. No, I've never fielded all 8. I did a list with 6 and an Outer Rim Smuggler. No, yeah, and then I've done a list with 6 loaded up with missiles and stuff. But I feel like you need to actually analyze now if you're going to use it or not. Is that something you want to fly? Like TIE Fighters, you probably don't need 8. X-Wings, you might want 4 because you might fly 4 X-Wings at some point, but you're going to take it on a ship-by-ship basis. Multiples-wise, I would definitely want 3 X-Wings so that I can run a trench run. That's a given. Do I actually want to get 3 U-Wings or 4 U-Wings because I can run 4? No. I had a fun idea for a list of where I fielded 3 and they all remained stationary and kept shooting. But honestly, if I'm going to play that, I can just borrow one. And that's where I'm at now. I don't feel a need for it to be mine, especially because it's pre-painted. If it's a list where the amount of I don't use jank in the like powerful term, but in the stupid list building thing. The amount of jank stupid lists that I've built for systems where you have to build and paint everything. And then I will always buy it because I want it to be matching the rest of my army because I'm a very visually aesthetic player. I like the games to look good. But for X-Wing, it doesn't really matter. You just borrow one. I didn't have any of my cards for the Star Championships I went to, so I just borrowed everything. I had the ships, but I'd packed the cards away somewhere and couldn't find them. I just took a post on Facebook, turned up, I printed my list out, and the guys were like, look, if you need the card, if anyone asks, I've got all the cards here, just borrow them. So I had a stack of all of the cards, and I never used them, I just used my printed list. So now I don't think it's anywhere near as much of an issue, and to follow on, the second part of it would be going to 7 factions. There will be instances where you will want more of one type of ship than another, but it's not going to be... You don't need as much variety in squads within the list, within the faction, to get the that different feel to a game. You can bounce between playing a couple of different factions if you want to have a change. So it's not like you need to go, I'm going to play 6 A-Wings today, because that's completely different to running Dash Corran that I was running. You can now go, I'm going to run some droid fighters. Oh, I've done that. Okay, I'm going to run Poe Dameron on his own, because he's like 1 billion points or whatever. And you know what I mean? You can get your variants in that way, and you can get that a lot cheaper than buying deep into one faction. Buying a list for a different faction, I feel like would be cheaper.
Oh, Sean, I thought you were showing us something, Sean. You're just waving off your phone there.
Checking his messages.
Checking his message. Okay, so
Yeah.
I guess I'm gonna be the one voice that kind of pushes back on that one, and this is only for one reason and one reason alone. I really like the Epic game. Now, granted, we don't know what they're going to do with Epic yet. They haven't announced it yet, but you know something's coming. And if you're that type of player that wants to be able to field this massive squad of 12 or 14 or 18 different types of TIE fighters, then yeah, I can absolutely see it. I have them. That's the reason why I have as many ships as I do. I'm in a very similar situation to what Sean was, as we were starting to build a community whenever we were at our local game store. Nobody had any ships, so I was just buying everything. But then it became kind of handy to be able to have those around. Hey, we're going to Outrider Cup. We need 15 TIE fighters. Who's got them? Call Ed. They're here. I've got them. And we can add those TIE fighters into it. So if that is the direction you want to go, if you're going to flat out say, nope, I'm never going to play Epic, then no, I completely agree with you. The other side to that, the other part I want to push back on is we don't know what the pilot structure is going to be as the game moves forward. So we know that we've got the expansion sets, but some of those ships only have 2-3 pilots. Some of them only come with 1 or 2 different upgrades as far as the conversion kits and the actual ships and upgrades themselves. We don't know what we're moving into as they begin to release more and more ships. There may be instances where, yes, I already own 2 Slave Ones, but there's a really cool, Slave One's probably a bad example because I already know all this stuff. Maybe I only own 1 Decimator, but there's a really cool upgrade in there, and I kind of need 2 of them for the Empire. We don't know that they're not going to continue to do that model like they did before. Now, we do know that they're going to focus specifically, they're never going to have an Imperial upgrade be in a Scum ship. So if you're only ever playing Imperial,
so
you don't have to
people
buy
are
that.
complaining that if you want to run Moldy Crow on a Scum Hawk, you've got to buy a Rebel conversion kit. If you're going to run Maul, you've got to buy a Scum one. If you want to run 000, thanks Jeremy, 000 and BT1, you've got to buy a Scum kit for the Empire. And I don't think Empire has barrage rockets.
Yeah, but so you've got to be able to...
You're only doing that if it's these high-level tournaments.
Yeah.
If you're playing locally with your buds, you don't have to do any of that.
Right, but if
my
we double
counter
back
to
on
it, sorry, Ed, the counter to that is generally if someone's deep into a faction, they're going to be getting 2 kits. Everyone should know somebody is going to be buying 2 of the same conversion kit. You cannot run 2 copies of Moldy Crow. You don't get rid of your pride and beg that guy to give you a card.
Well, I think to double back to something we'd started when we were talking about the app, let's go for sake of argument for this conversation and state that 2nd edition is the competitive format. You don't need that card because it's not valid.
That's a good point. None of those cards, in fact, even barrage rockets don't exist in Empire yet.
Right, exactly. So in the event those cards are coming for those factions, they'll just be in different expansion sets that we haven't seen yet.
The one
so
that
I think they will fill
I did
that
enjoy, there was a reading failure on the FFG forums. Someone had got really all caps. The Fang Fighter comes with 1 copy of Afterburners, and it's the only Scum player to get Afterburners, and the Fang can't even use it. It's on the quick build though, bro.
Yeah. So
if you want to play a quick build game, you have to use it. Just saying.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, if you're wanting to play with Afterburners in Scum, you have to buy. You'll have 1 from your core set, and then you have to buy Fang Fighters, which you were going to do anyway because they're cool. But you might as well complain about something.
Exactly.
Last question.
Well, Facebook. We're going to go ahead there. Scott asks, what ship and pilot are you most looking forward to flying in 2.0 that you generally didn't touch in 1.0?
This one's easy for me. Vader.
Easy to me.
Lord Vader.
Lord Vader? I flew Vader a lot, so I can't answer that.
A lot? Really? When was the last time?
Palpatine. When I went to Worlds, I took Fel Vader.
So in 2015, you had a good run of flying Vader. It's currently 2018.
You're right, and that's a good argument. And don't get me wrong.
And he really hasn't played since then, so.
But I can think of other ships. If I were to pick one, the first one I'm going to pick would be Slave One, Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Imperial Boba Fett stunk, and then I never really played a ton of Scum to really kind of get into the other one from the Scum faction. And it's a cool ship. It's a really cool, iconic ship from the Star Wars universe. Never flew it. I never liked the dial. It never really flew the way that I thought that it should. So that's one ship that I'm really looking forward to being able to put on the table because I think they got it right this time. And I think it's going to fly awesome.
And so you stole my thunder on that one, Ed.
Oh,
because that's mine also.
Continue on then, by all means.
No, it's the same reason. You know, it's just it was a bad ship in 1.0. Overall, the Scum version was an okay ship. Evan Clausen flew it continuously. You know, he flew it for a long time. But the Boba Fett Imperial version, after Doug Kenny, after Fetigator died, you never saw it. You know, after Doug Kenny, who was a good proponent for Fetigator, after he stopped playing it, it just seemed to fall off the table and never left the back of the book, and never ever left the back of the book for me.
And for you kids out there that have never heard of that before, that was Boba Fett with the Navigator one, which basically leveraged his ability to be able to go wherever he wanted to go.
You can still do it now.
You can still do it now, but in the end, you were still on the first edition chassis of the Slave One, and it just didn't.
Right.
It didn't, unless you're in the hands of a world champion like Doug Kenny, where it wasn't really super efficient. So that's definitely a key ship for me. All right, Kris, yours.
No, Vader for me, and I'm the same. I flew Vader at Worlds in 2015. I've flown Vader a lot in the run-up to 2.0, but that's because that's how excited I was. I'm that excited that I was nerfing myself by using Vader without using his evade action. But Supernatural Vader, I cannot wait to get that on the table. And
you're gonna go for Supernatural. I'm still thinking Sense.
No, Supernatural Vader, and I'm just gonna destroy some scrubs.
See, I'm
terrible at the game, but I'm not.
That's why I'm going with Sense. So I know what you're doing.
I'm terrible at the game, but I'm not bad enough that if you give me a free boost or barrel roll at Initiative 6, that I can't abuse that. And yeah, against good, I'm not going to use it to win tournaments, don't get wrong, but I feel like Supernatural Vader is going to be the bane of casual X-Wing for a good few weeks.
How about you, Chad? Ship that you own, didn't fly that often, and are really looking forward to putting on the table now.
That I didn't fly that often?
Yeah.
None of them.
None of them.
The ships that I've flown often enough, I would fly still in 2.0. I mean, I own ships like Bombers and Punishers that I'm still not really looking forward to flying. Just because I like my maneuverability ships. To even sit there and be like, yes, well, the good old Space Cow's getting that rear firing arc. I did fly that regularly for the first how long that we played X-Wing. And whenever Palp became a thing, it was like, you're still flying the shuttle. So, I mean, like, something that I didn't fly regularly, I can't really think of a ship that I would...
So would you go back to the Space Cow over a Reaper for 2.0 then?
I would look into a Space Cow just to see what the rear firing arc and, any of that kind of stuff.
Reinforce action.
Yeah, exactly.
I would look into maybe like trying out some practice games with it to see if I like its feel versus the maneuverability of the Reaper. You can't follow it anymore and just plank it to death because it can't turn around with that rear firing arc. So, like, the Space Cow, yes, I would possibly look into maybe going back to that, but that was something I did fly regularly for quite some time.
Yeah.
What about the Interceptor?
I'd still be actually throwing those in the list.
So Chad comes up with these cool old school lists whenever he throws them. That's a good argument, too.
My play style allows me to plug in different ships and play them in ways that people don't think. And I like to tell people I'm a Deadpool fan, and I use the Deadpool method of playing X-Wing. the Taskmaster who can copy moves could never really defeat Deadpool because Deadpool doesn't even know what he's going to do next. And the Taskmaster can predict what you're about to do. And so because he can't predict what the guy is going to do next because he doesn't even know, that's kind of my play style. I kind of plan it out as I'm going. I don't go in with a specific plan, and that's what throws a lot of people off is they think I'm going in doing this, and it's like, oh, no, I wasn't doing that. I'm actually doing something.
That's why you're so hard to play against for me, too. Well, like, for me, I think you always came up with these, like, homebrew lists. You're
yeah, I try to be original.
Yeah, you're that one guy that comes to that list, and you sit across the table, and you're like, he brought what? What the heck does that do? And then at the end of the game, you're like, how did I lose to that list? Nobody ever flies that. And
back at the campaign against Cancer, I was flying Imperial Cath. People were looking at me like, what are you doing?
Exactly. All right, so you're a special case. Any other questions from the Facebook?
No,
community?
that was it for the Facebook,
We covered off, obviously, all of the app questions that we inevitably got today.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah, those were those first two.
If you'd like to have your question answered on this show, when we record a show, we do put a message out on Facebook. Just drop a comment in there, and we will address it in the show.
Every other Thursday.
Every other Thursday.
Or you can shoot us an email. Go on, Chad.
Mm-hmm. Hey, look at that segue. It's almost professional.
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, we do have the email, the Lack of Focus podcast at gmail.com. As they were saying, we are Lack of Focus on Facebook. There is YouTube channel. I'll go ahead and just mention all this stuff right now. The YouTube channel on DiceHate. We do have various audio formats if you want, like Podbean, SoundCloud, Google Play, Spotify. We're all over the place with that. And if you really, really want to help us out and support us, there is the patreon.com/lackoffocus. We greatly appreciate that. A little bit of help, is greatly appreciated. Kris, he puts lots of hard work into this, and he puts all the bills and everything. And any help you guys can give him would be greatly appreciated.
So
we do get to mention our sponsors not the sponsors, the Patreons. I
just wanted to go through quickly and address. There was a YouTube comment that came up, but I think the guy deleted it after he put it because I couldn't find it. I got the email about it, but I couldn't see it. But the guy was asking if we have the same channel because I used to talk with a broad Northern British or Northern English accent. And he figured out that it is the same channel, but because I deal with these buffoons who can't actually understand plain English, I have to enunciate more now. And we've been doing it for that long that I can now actually speak rather correctly. Evidently not. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't.
Fault. It is our fault.
I didn't actually talk that much, in my northern accent and use all of my colloquialisms anymore. So I've been trying.
I liked it better.
Yeah. Too many times people tell them, dude, just speak English. Come on.
So the one thing that I still struggle with is working in the sentry box. Would you like a bag? To me, even if you don't understand what that question means or the words I'm actually saying, the social context of you being stood there purchasing some stuff with me gesturing towards a plastic bag should indicate that's what I'm asking you. But no, that is the one I get repeated at me. I have to repeat 3 or 4 times. Would you like a bag? So I don't know if there is something about the way I'm saying that, but evidently I must try harder.
Maybe.
I understood it.
Yeah, I think we have gotten used to hearing you talk over the years that I heard nothing wrong in that sentence. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments and say, oh, yeah, no, I don't understand a word he just said. I didn't.
I didn't, but then again, I grew up watching a lot of British TV. I was a big Monty Python.
This is true.
All the different British shows that would appear on PBS. I liked all those shows, Doctor Who and all that. So, I don't have an issue listening to him talk. I know other people who are
find it soothing.
Yeah. But
I have a crawl that goes across that is Kris Translator. So,
Google Translate.
I'll just point out as well that because we're talking about Northern English accents, winter's coming. It snowed today.
It's got snow today.
Yeah.
It's freaking September.
It's Canada.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm so happy. I've been waiting for winter all through spring.
Holy shit.
It's the Great White North for a reason.
It is. Yeah, no, we dipped down into the 50s here in Western PA a couple of days ago. And I actually had to debate turning the heat on in my house. I didn't. I debated it.
We didn't have snow, but we had a lot of rain.
Oh, a ton of it. Yeah, our hearts and minds go out to those folks that are sitting in the eastern side of the U.S. here, about ready to get slammed into by a hurricane. Right now, Florence is doing her work over there.
Yeah.
I've got a coworker who went to the Outer Banks for vacation and got evacuated the day after he got there.
I was evacuated from my town earlier this week, but that was from a dam issue. They thought it was going to burst with all the rain we were getting.
What dam? I don't even know what dam is upstream of Derry.
I looked on it at Google Maps and switched to the satellite image to look at it because these are two little like water reservoirs or whatever. I'm like, I don't even see. It's supposed to be like an earth dam.
Okay.
And like I'm looking at this picture and I'm like, I don't even see like a shadow indicating that the ground's higher in one spot than it is the other indicated dam. I'm like, I don't know.
We didn't get a chance to talk about that, but yeah.
But with how high up I live in my building, it wasn't going to affect me. But they were afraid because I live close enough to the run that was going to overflow.
Well, the kids were disappointed that you didn't spend the night at the house. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah.
I said, Uncle Chad might be coming over. Like, yay! And then you text me an hour later and said, no, they'll let us back in. I'm like, boo.
Yeah.
They were disappointed.
So
anyway, I think that's going to do it for the show. I know Kris has got a hard stop, and it looks like we're going to beat that by about 10 minutes. So, Kris, always good to talk to you, my friend. Thank you so much for all the work you put in tonight.
It's a pleasure. This one's going to be a joy to edit. So I was just going to bring up before I edit that there is going to be some problems with the audio on this one. If you've made it this far to hear the apology, thank you. I appreciate it. I'll do my best to clean it up in post. We're going to be working on some solutions because our current Skype setup is not up to the standard we want to maintain.
No, Skype sucks. Sean, always good to talk to you, my friend. Glad to see you.
Yeah, glad to be back. I should be more regular. I just had some scheduling issues last two shows.
Totally understandable. This is the main one. This is the one you wanted to be on.
Well, to me, this is episode 1. You know,
the rest were just warm up.
Yeah, it was just the true warm ups to 2.0, and we'll be ready and have a lot more content.
Oh,
I can't wait.
Games to talk about in second edition, no less. Chad, always good to hang out with you, my friend. Good to have you in studio, even though you hit me.
Yeah, and I don't think I hit you hard enough.
I don't think you did it. No way.
But yeah, no, I want to say thanks to all the fans. Continue supporting us through Patreon, and don't forget all those different versions of the ways you can hear us. Mm-hmm. Email us, Facebook us, all the questions you want. Any comments you have that you want to, sit there and say, yes, you understand, Kris, or, oh my God, Ed's actually going to start playing X-Wing again.
Absolutely.
We welcome all those comments and everything, but thanks everybody.
If you are watching us on Facebook or on YouTube and you enjoyed the content, please be sure to hit that like button down there. That really helps support
Subscribe.
the channel. Subscribe. Drop in a comment too. It helps some of those algorithms that help find that out, and we'll be able to answer some of your questions too. Looking forward to next episode where we get to talk about arc dodging. That's kind of like my forte. At least it has been. So until then, we'll see you guys in the next episode. And as always, fly casual. Thank you once again for joining the Lack of Focus X-Wing podcast. Check out DiceHate Productions for all of the latest episodes, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you again next episode.